Claire had loved Adrian for 2 years. 2 years of stolen glances. 2 years of showing up whenever he needed her. 2 years of hoping, just hoping, that one day he would turn around and see her. But he never did. She wasn't the girl he looked at across the room. She wasn't the one he stayed up late texting. She wasn't the one he smiled at with that softness in his eyes.
She was just there.
A reliable friend. A constant presence. The girl who always listened, always cared, always made time for him, no matter how much it hurt. But today, something inside her broke. Because today, she finally understood. He was never going to love her back. The realization hit her like a cold slap in the middle of a crowded cafe. She had been waiting for Adrian when she saw it. Him. Another girl. And that look in his eyes. The kind of look she had spent 2 years dreaming about. Except it wasn't for her. It was for her. A beautiful girl with an effortless smile, standing next to him, laughing at something he said. And Adrian, her Adrian, was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Claire's fingers curled around her coffee cup as her heart clenched painfully in her chest. Maybe she had been foolish all along. Maybe she had wasted too much time waiting for something that was never meant to be. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop. That night, she made a decision. She wasn't going to wait for him anymore. She wasn't going to linger, wasn't going to look for signs that didn't exist, wasn't going to hold on to a hope that had long since died. For the first time in 2 years, Claire was letting go. She didn't know if it would be easy. She didn't know if it would hurt. But she did know one thing. She deserved better. For the first time in 2 years, Claire didn't look for Adrian in the crowded lecture hall. She sat near the back instead of her usual seat beside him. She didn't wait for him outside after class, didn't text him to ask if he wanted coffee, didn't linger in the places she knew he'd be. She simply stopped. And it felt strange. Not painful, not yet. Just different. Like unlearning a habit that had become second nature. She expected Adrian not to notice. After all, she had spent 2 years making herself invisible to him in the ways that mattered. But the next morning, when she walked past him in the hallway without a word, she saw it, the flicker of confusion in his eyes. That was the first sign. The second came a few days later. "Hey, where have you been?" Adrian asked casually as they crossed paths outside the library. Claire blinked, momentarily thrown off. She had been around. Just not his around. "Busy," she replied, her voice neutral. Adrian frowned, as if something about her answer didn't sit right. "You didn't text me about study group." She shrugged. "Figured you wouldn't need me." It was the truth, wasn't it? He never had before. Adrian opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but Claire didn't wait for it. She walked past him before he could fill the silence with another excuse, another meaningless conversation that would leave her hurting in the end. It was better this way. She was done being an option in his life. If he wanted her there, he would have to choose her himself. But what she didn't expect was how quickly he noticed her absence. By the end of the week, Adrian was everywhere. She found him in the coffee shop she started going to alone. He sat next to her in class again, without asking. He messaged her first, short texts, simple questions, small attempts at conversation. She ignored most of them, not to be cruel, but because she was tired. Tired of being the one to hold onto something that had never been real. She didn't expect him to chase after her. But maybe, just maybe, she should have. Because Adrian wasn't used to losing things that had always been there. And now that Claire was slipping away, he wasn't sure he was ready to let her go. Claire thought letting go would be the hardest part. But it turned out the hardest part was seeing Adrian finally notice. Not in the way she had once dreamed. Not with love in his eyes or a realization that she had been the one all along. No, it was different. It was in the way his gaze lingered when she passed him in the halls. In the way his messages increased, from simple check-ins to actual attempts at conversation. In the way he started showing up in places she never told him she'd be. It was strange. For 2 years, she had been the one orbiting him, drawn to his world like a moon caught in his gravity. And now, with the distance she created, it was as if he was feeling the absence of something he had never bothered to acknowledge before. But Claire wasn't going to make it easy for him. She wasn't doing this for him. She was doing this for her. It started small. "Hey, are you avoiding me?" Adrian asked one afternoon, appearing at her side as she walked across campus. Claire barely glanced at him. "Why would I do that?" "You tell me," he said, matching her pace. "You're not around as much anymore." Her grip on her books tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. "I didn't realize I needed to be." Adrian faltered. "That's not what I meant." She finally stopped walking and turned to face him. "Then what do you mean?" He opened his mouth, then hesitated, as if he wasn't entirely sure himself. And that was the problem, wasn't it? For so long, Adrian had taken her presence for granted. He never had to question her loyalty, never had to wonder if she would be there when he needed her. But now, Claire had changed the rules. And he was struggling to keep up. You used to be around more," he admitted. Claire exhaled softly, letting her gaze drop for a moment before meeting his eyes again.
"Yeah,
"I did." Then, without another word, she walked away. And for the first time ever, Adrian was the one left standing alone. But he didn't stop there. If anything, his persistence only grew stronger. The next time she went to the cafe, he was already there, waiting. The next time she stayed after class, he sat beside her, striking up a conversation. The next time she ignored his text, he called instead. It was new, strange, unexpected. And yet, Claire knew one thing for sure. Adrian had no idea what he wanted. And she wasn't going to let herself get caught in the middle of it again. But as much as she tried to push him away, Adrian wasn't giving up so easily. Because for the first time in his life, he was realizing what it meant to lose something before he ever truly had it. Claire thought it would get easier. That with time, the ache in her chest would dull. That she'd wake up one morning and not wonder if Adrian had noticed she was gone. But life had a cruel sense of irony. Because the moment she stopped waiting for him, he started looking for her. It started with small things. A lingering glance. A casual comment about how they never talked anymore. Then it escalated. He sat next to her in class, even though she deliberately chose a seat far from him. He accidentally bumped into her more times than she could count. He texted her at odd hours with random things he never would have thought to share before. And the worst part? He made it all seem so normal. As if he hadn't spent 2 years overlooking her. As if he had always been this attentive, this present, this interested. It was frustrating. Because for the first time in forever, Claire wasn't chasing after him. Now he was the one closing the distance. And she didn't know what to do about it. "You've been avoiding me," Adrian said one evening, stepping in front of her as she exited the library.
Claire sighed.
"We go to the same school. We have the same classes. How exactly am I avoiding you?" "You know what I mean," he said, his eyes sharp, studying her as if she was a puzzle he had never truly tried to solve before. "You used to." "Used to." Claire cut in, her voice calm but firm. "People change, Adrian." His jaw tensed. Just like that. She forced herself to hold his gaze, even as her heart twisted. Just like that. For a second, he looked like he wanted to argue. Like he wanted to say something, anything that would undo the space she had put between them. But he didn't. Because deep down, Adrian knew. This wasn't something he could fix with a few words. For the first time, he was the one on the outside looking in. And for the first time, Claire wasn't waiting for him to notice her.
She was walking away.
But Adrian wasn't someone who gave up easily. Not when something slipped through his fingers. Not when, for the first time in his life, he cared that it was slipping. And the more Claire pulled away, the more he found himself chasing after her. Even when he wasn't sure why. Even when he wasn't sure what he was chasing. But one thing was becoming clear. He had never considered what life would be like without Claire always being there. And now that she wasn't, he wasn't sure he liked it. Not one bit. Adrian was restless. It was a feeling he wasn't used to, this gnawing sense of unease, of something being just out of reach. For years, he had lived his life without questioning Claire's presence. She had always been there, smiling, waiting,
caring.
But now she wasn't, and it was driving him insane. "Man, are you listening?" Ryan, his best friend, waved a hand in front of his face. Adrian blinked, realizing he had been staring across the cafeteria at Claire. She was sitting at a different table now, one far from where she used to sit. She laughed at something her friend said, and Adrian felt something tighten in his chest. She looked fine. She looked happy. Without him. Seriously, dude. Ryan followed his gaze and smirked. You've been staring at her for weeks. Just admit it, you miss her. Adrian scowled. I don't miss her. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Oh. Then why do you keep watching her like a lost puppy? I'm not watching her, Adrian muttered. Ryan just laughed.
Right.
And I'm the president of the country. Adrian ignored him. But as Claire got up and walked past him without even sparing him a glance, something inside him snapped. For years, he had been the center of her world. Now he wasn't even a passing thought. And for the first time he realized he did miss her. More than he wanted to admit. The next day, he decided he wasn't going to let things stay this way. He found Claire by the lockers, talking to a friend. Claire. She looked up at him, her expression unreadable. Yeah. He hesitated. Why was this suddenly so hard? She waited, her eyes calm, detached. Adrian swallowed. Are we okay? Claire tilted her head. Why wouldn't we be? His stomach twisted. You've been different. She smiled, but it wasn't the kind he was used to. It wasn't soft or hopeful. It was polite. People change, Adrian, she said simply, echoing the same words she had told him before. And just like that, she was gone, leaving Adrian standing there, alone. For the first time, he was the one chasing. And for the first time, she wasn't looking back. But he wasn't going to let her go that easily. Because the more she walked away, the more he realized he didn't want to lose her.
Not now.
Not ever. And he was finally ready to fight for her, even if he had no idea how. Adrian had never fought for anything in his life. Things had always come easily to him, friends, grades, attention. Even Claire. She had always been there, orbiting around him like a constant presence, always waiting, always hoping. But now she was gone. And he didn't know how to bring her back. You're pathetic, Ryan said bluntly as Adrian sat beside him, staring at Claire across the quad. Adrian tore his gaze away. Shut up. Ryan snorted. Dude, you had 2 years to notice her. 2 whole years. And now that she's finally moving on, you suddenly care? Adrian clenched his jaw. It's not like that. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Then what is it like? Adrian hesitated. He didn't know how to explain it. All he knew was that something about Claire had changed. She wasn't the same girl who used to light up every time he spoke to her, who used to linger around him with hopeful eyes. She was different now. Confident. Self-assured. And she didn't need him anymore. That realization made his chest feel tight. He wanted her in his life. But what if she didn't want him in hers? Claire sighed. Adrian keeps looking at you, Emma whispered, nudging Claire's arm as they walked toward the library. Claire didn't even turn around. Let him. Emma gave her a look. You really don't care anymore? Claire hesitated.
Did she?
For 2 years, she had poured everything into him. Her time, her attention, her heart. And he had never once looked back. It had taken every ounce of strength she had to finally let go. So no, she wouldn't let herself care. Not again. He's not my problem anymore, Claire said simply, pulling open the library doors. And she meant it. Or, at least, she wanted to. Adrian sighed. Adrian found himself standing outside the library later that evening, gripping the straps of his backpack like a lifeline. He had never been nervous to talk to Claire before.
But now?
Now, it felt like he was facing a stranger. He spotted her sitting by the window, absorbed in her notes. For a moment, he just watched her. She looked peaceful, at ease. And for the first time, he wondered, had he ever really seen her before? Taking a deep breath, he walked up to her table. Can I sit here? Claire glanced up, her eyes cool. There are plenty of other tables.
Ouch.
Adrian cleared his throat. I know, but I want to sit here. She studied him for a long moment before shrugging. Suit yourself. He sat down, feeling oddly out of place. Claire didn't say anything. She just kept reading. Adrian shifted. You're really not going to talk to me? She didn't even glance up. What do you want me to say, Adrian? I don't know, he admitted. Anything? She sighed and finally met his gaze. I don't know what you expect from me. I spent 2 years talking to you, trying to get your attention. Now I'm done. I've moved on. Her words hit him like a punch to the gut. Moved on? How was that fair? He swallowed hard. Claire, don't. She cut him off, shaking her head. Don't do this just because I'm not chasing you anymore. Adrian's throat went dry. It's not, isn't it? She challenged. If I still liked you, if I was still waiting for you, would you even be here right now? Her words echoed in his mind, leaving him speechless. Because the truth was, he didn't know the answer. And that terrified him. But one thing was certain. If Claire had truly moved on, then Adrian had just realized, far too late, that he never wanted to lose her in the first place. And for the first time in his life, he was going to fight to keep her, even if she refused to let him in. Claire had always been the kind of person who believed in fighting for love. She had fought for Adrian, fought to be seen, fought to be heard, fought to be chosen. And for 2 years, all she had received in return was indifference. She wasn't going to make that mistake again. So why did it still hurt when he looked at her like that? Like she was slipping away from him. Like he cared. She clenched her jaw and forced herself to focus on her book. It didn't matter. Not anymore. Claire. She inhaled sharply, but didn't look up. What? Adrian hesitated, and for a moment, she thought he might actually say something real. But then he just exhaled. Never mind. Of course. Shaking her head, Claire stood up and grabbed her things. Goodbye, Adrian. She didn't wait for his response as she walked away. If he had nothing to say, then neither did she. Adrian sighed. Adrian watched her go, his stomach twisting. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. For years, Claire had always been there, bright, warm, constant. And now, it was as if she had flipped a switch and erased him from her life. He didn't like it, and he didn't know how to fix it. You really screwed up, huh? Ryan muttered as he sat down next to him. Adrian ran a hand through his hair.
Yeah.
Ryan leaned back, crossing his arms. Then fix it.
How?
Ryan scoffed. You're the one who ignored her for years. Figure it out. Adrian clenched his jaw. He had always thought Claire would be there no matter what. But what if she wasn't? What if, for the first time, she was truly gone? The thought made his chest tighten. And that was when he realized. He wasn't just afraid of losing her. He was afraid that he had never deserved her in the first place. Claire sighed. Are you sure you're okay? Emma asked as they sat at a cafe later that evening. Claire forced a smile. I'm fine. Emma gave her a look. You don't have to lie to me. Claire sighed, stirring her coffee. It's just weird, having him suddenly care after all this time. Emma nodded. Do you still love him? The question made Claire freeze.
Did she?
She had spent so long trying to let go of him, trying to move on. But love didn't just disappear overnight.
She sighed.
I don't know. Emma reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Then take your time. Don't let him pull you back in just because he finally realized what he lost. Claire nodded, but deep down, she knew it wasn't that simple. Because no matter how much she tried to ignore it, her heart still hadn't completely let go. And she hated herself for it. Adrian sighed. Adrian spent the next few days watching Claire from a distance, trying to figure out what to do. How do you fix something when you're the one who broke it? And then it hit him. Claire had always been the one to make the effort.
To chase. To try.
Maybe it was time for him to do the same. So he did something he had never done before. He showed up at her house. Claire opened the door, blinking in surprise. Adrian. He exhaled. Can we talk? She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the door. Why? Because I think I messed up, he admitted. And I don't know how to fix it, but I want to try. She studied him, her expression unreadable. Then finally, okay. Claire wasn't sure what she had expected when she let Adrian in. An apology? A confession? Maybe just another half-hearted excuse? But as he stood in her living room, shifting awkwardly like he had never done before, she realized something. For the first time, he was the one who didn't know what to say. And that made her more nervous than anything. She crossed her arms. So, talk. Adrian exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. I don't know where to start. Try the truth, she said, keeping her tone even. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked like he was about to back out. But then, I was an idiot. She raised an eyebrow. Well, that's a good start. He let out a dry chuckle before shaking his head. I thought you'd always be there, Claire. I thought I had all the time in the world to figure things out. She swallowed. And now you're gone. His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. And I hate it. Claire's heart clenched. She wanted to believe him. But after years of being the one who always cared more, how could she? She sighed, looking away. You don't get to say that now, Adrian. Not after everything. I know, he admitted, but I had to say it anyway. She hated that his honesty still had the power to shake her. Because she had been gone. She had made her peace with moving on. Hadn't she? Adrian sighed. Adrian had never been afraid of rejection before. Because, in all honesty, he had never cared enough for it to matter. But with Claire, it did. She didn't look at him the way she used to. There was no warmth, no hope, no quiet longing. And that terrified him. Claire, he said softly, do you really not feel anything anymore? She inhaled sharply, but didn't answer right away. And that, at least, gave him hope. Because if she truly didn't care, she would have said so already. Finally, she sighed. It doesn't matter what I feel, Adrian. I'm tired of chasing after something that was never meant to be. His stomach twisted. And what if it was meant to be? She shook her head. Then you were too late. Those words hit harder than he expected. But he wasn't going to walk away this time. If Claire was done chasing, then it was time for him to prove he was willing to run after her. Claire sighed. Claire closed the door behind Adrian after he left, her hands shaking slightly. This wasn't fair. She had moved on. She had stopped waiting, stopped hoping, stopped dreaming about a future with him. So why did it still hurt? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts.
Emma.
Emma, are you okay? Claire, I don't know. She stared at the screen for a long moment before typing another message. Claire, what if it's too late for me to trust him? The reply came instantly. Emma, then don't trust his words. Trust his actions. Claire exhaled slowly. Maybe Emma was right. Maybe Adrian's words didn't matter. Not unless he proved them. And Claire wasn't going to make it easy for him. If he wanted to chase her, then he'd have to catch her first. Adrian sighed. For the next week, Adrian did something he had never done before. He made an effort. Not with grand gestures or empty words, but with consistency. He showed up. He called, texted, waited for her outside the cafe she always visited, walked her home even when she didn't ask. Not once did he ask for anything in return. He was simply there. And slowly, Claire started to soften. Not completely.
Not yet.
But there were moments, small, fleeting moments, when she would look at him and forget to be guarded. When she would smile without realizing it. When she would hesitate before saying goodbye. And Adrian held on to those moments like they were the most important things in the world. Because maybe, just maybe, he wasn't too late after all. Claire sighed. She wasn't sure when it happened. When the walls she had built so carefully started to crack. When his presence stopped feeling like an invasion and started feeling natural. But one evening, as they walked home together, she found herself laughing at something he said, really laughing. And she realized she had missed him. Not the version of him she had chased for years, but the one who was finally standing in front of her. Claire? She glanced at him. Yeah. He hesitated before speaking. Do you think there's still a chance for us? Her heart pounded. She didn't know the answer. But for the first time, she didn't hate the idea of finding out. So she took a deep breath, looked him in the eyes, and said, maybe. And that was enough.
For now.
He had spent years ignoring her love. Now, he was willing to spend forever proving he deserved it. For the first time in years, Adrian wasn't chasing success, status, or fleeting distractions. He was chasing her. And Claire? She was making him work for it. Claire sighed. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't playing games. But she wasn't going to fall into his arms just because he suddenly decided she mattered. She had spent too long being the afterthought. So if Adrian wanted a place in her life, he had to earn it. And surprisingly, he was trying. No more half-hearted efforts. No more charming smiles masking indifference. This time, Adrian stayed. When she was tired after a long day, he was there with coffee. When she had a bad week at work, he listened instead of offering empty reassurances. When she didn't want to talk, he simply walked beside her, silent but present. And that was the part that scared her the most, because she could feel herself softening. She could feel her walls trembling, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. Adrian sighed. For the first time in his life, Adrian understood patience. Claire wasn't the same woman who had once adored him so openly. She had changed. She was guarded now, careful. And he had no one to blame but himself. But instead of running from that realization, he embraced it. Because this time, it wasn't about proving he deserved her. It was about proving that she deserved someone who wouldn't take her for granted ever again. A moment of weakness. It happened late one evening. Claire had been unusually quiet all day, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. Adrian didn't press. He simply walked her home, the way he had done every evening for the past few weeks. But as they reached her apartment, she stopped. And for the first time since he had started chasing her, she hesitated. "Adrian," she murmured. "Yeah." She looked at him, and for a moment, the weight of the past, the hurt, the longing, it was all there in her eyes. "You really hurt me," she admitted. His chest tightened. "I know. I don't know if I can trust you again." He swallowed hard. "Then don't." Her brows furrowed. "What?" "Don't trust me yet," he said gently. "Just let me keep showing you that you can." Claire's breath caught. Because this was different. This wasn't him trying to rush her into something she wasn't ready for. This wasn't him making promises he might not keep. This was patience. This was growth. And before she could stop herself, she whispered, "Okay." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a second chance. But it was a step forward. And for now, that was enough. The shift. Days passed. Then weeks. And slowly, so slowly, Claire found herself lowering her walls. She laughed more when he was around. She let herself rely on him, just a little. She found herself watching him when he wasn't looking, trying to understand this new Adrian. And the more she saw, the harder it became to deny. Maybe he had changed. Maybe he was different. And maybe, just maybe, she was still in love with him. Adrian's realization. The night it truly hit Adrian wasn't a grand, dramatic moment. It was quiet, simple. Claire had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from work. Adrian had stayed, making sure she was okay. And as he watched her sleep, peaceful and soft in the glow of the city lights, something inside him settled. He had spent years chasing things that didn't matter. Status. Power. The next best thing. And all along, the one thing that had ever truly mattered had been her. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his voice barely above a whisper. "I love you." She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. And for now, that was okay. Because this time, he wasn't going anywhere. Claire didn't know when it happened. When her guarded heart started softening. When Adrian's presence stopped feeling like an intrusion and became natural. When his small, quiet efforts became the moments she looked forward to the most. But it had happened. And now, as she stood at the edge of something terrifying and beautiful, she realized she had a choice to make. A decision. Claire wasn't someone who took love lightly anymore. She had spent too many nights wondering if she wasn't enough for Adrian before. Too many days convincing herself to walk away from someone who never really saw her. She wouldn't let herself go through that again. So before she could fall, she had to know. Adrian, she said one evening as they sat on the rooftop of her apartment building, the city stretching endlessly before them. He turned to her, his expression unreadable, but patient. Always patient now. I need you to tell me why. Why what? Why now? She took a breath. Why did it take me leaving for you to finally see me? His jaw clenched. She wasn't asking to hurt him. She was asking to understand. Adrian exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Because I was a fool. She waited. I had everything, he swallowed, his voice rough. You were right in front of me, and I didn't look. I thought love was something grand, something you chase like a prize. His gaze met hers, raw and unguarded. But real love? It's in the quiet moments. In the way you always knew how to make my worst days better. In the way you cared, really cared, without expecting anything in return. And I was too blind to see how much I needed that. Claire's heart twisted. She had waited so long to hear those words. But words weren't enough. How do I know it's real this time? She whispered. Adrian didn't hesitate. Because this time, I'd rather lose everything else than lose you again. The final test. Claire wasn't sure if she was ready. But she knew one thing.
She wanted to try.
So she let herself lean into the way he made her laugh again. She let herself trust the way he stayed, even when she pushed him away. She let herself feel, for the first time in years, without fear. And the moment she knew, truly knew, was the night Adrian found her at her worst. She had a rough day. Work had been a disaster. She was tired, overwhelmed, frustrated. Before, she would have hidden it.
Pretended to be fine.
But when Adrian arrived, she didn't have to. She just existed. And instead of trying to fix her, he simply sat beside her, silent but there. That was it. That was all she needed. Love, finally. The next morning, she woke up to find Adrian making coffee in her kitchen. Like he had done it 1,000 times before. Like he belonged there. And for the first time, Claire didn't fight it. She walked up behind him, resting her head against his shoulder. Adrian froze. It was the first time she had touched him like this, softly, willingly, since everything changed. Claire, he murmured, turning to look at her. Her heart pounded. This was it. No more running. No more hesitation. I love you, she said simply. Adrian let out a shaky breath, his hands trembling as they cupped her face. You have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear that, he whispered. She smiled. I think I do. And when he kissed her, it wasn't a desperate, reckless thing. It was slow, steady, real. Because this time, love wasn't about chasing. It was about staying. And this time, neither of them was going anywhere.